Hello, my name is Tosin, and if I haven't met you before, welcome here. And if I have met you before, welcome back. I am so glad that you're here. So today I sit in a very colorful little romper because I am here to talk about confidence, and there are a few things that make me feel more confident than a really beautiful outfit with lots of color and lots of pattern. But that's not the point of this video. Fashion is not necessarily one of my tips, though maybe it could be. That's a bonus. I wanted to talk about overcoming imposter syndrome, and this is coming from a very mediocre Harvard student. I have never been the tip top of my class. I am second best in most things that I do. Good enough to be recognized, but not good enough to actually take that number one spot. And so, as you can imagine, imposter syndrome and insecurity in my ability is something that I've really walked through and had to overcome, especially as I've entered the Ivy League and been surrounded by people who are absolutely excellent in everything that they do. So I'm going to share with you some thoughts. As you know, if you've been here before, this is like a verbal diary, so there's always a healthy dose of rambling about how I have overcome imposter syndrome, and I hope that from my experience you can maybe take some tips for yourself, that you might feel heard, like you're not alone, like you can relate, or inspired to start a conversation with me, because I would love to chat with you in the comment section or in my direct messages on my social media pages. So without further ado, let's chat. As I was thinking about and dwelling on how I really came to this point of feeling really confident in my ability and my accomplishments, my purpose and my journey, I think that the largest factor that played a role in this is the people I surrounded myself by and the content that I consumed. So many of us spend so much of our lives feeling inadequate through scrolling on social media, listening to gossip, and just consuming so much content that makes us feel less than. When I got really hard on myself and strict with myself on what I was intaking, I noticed a shift. I noticed myself starting to grow in contentment, in satisfaction with the blessings that I already have, and in confidence on what I was called to do and my ability to achieve that. I also found myself to be more laser focused in what I felt called to achieve and what my purpose was, rather than always having my head turned by what other people were doing and what they were up to and whether or not I should be doing that. So I really had to focus in. I had to get really trigger finger happy with the mute button on Instagram. I had to make sure that I was showing up online as more of a creator than a consumer, and not spending so much time just consuming other people's lives, and instead, when I opened up an app, trying to make sure that I was showing up to share something or to just do like the quickest scroll to get inspired and log off and go live my real life, feet in the grass, head in the air, being present where I was. I found myself needing to make sure that I was surrounding myself by people who were encouragers, people who did not ask for me to be anybody but the best version of myself. We all have heard that adage that you are an average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, or the adage that says, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. And I think those things are very true. When we surround ourselves by certain people, we strive to be more like them. I think it's just natural that we start to become more like the people we surround ourselves with, probably because we want to be accepted and we're a tribal species. Surrounding yourself with people who are not only like you, but that embody traits and attributes that you would want for yourself is so productive. So I have been so intentional with the friends that I pursue and the people that I spend time with, that they champion the things that I love and they don't make me feel silly or inadequate or weird about the things that I'm into. I found that especially at a school like Harvard, there can be this sense of this is important and this is not important. This almost like haughtiness about certain interests where it's like good to be very interested in politics maybe, but not as cool to be interested in spirituality and religion. You know what I mean? There's a hierarchy to what you are allowed to pursue. And when I was surrounding myself with the wrong people and consuming the wrong types of content for me and for my goals, I found myself feeling so inadequate all the time. Like, why can I not be as interested in the things that my peers and classmates are? Maybe I'm just a shallow person. Maybe I'm just not as smart that I can't get interested in these things. But once I started to find my people, I first of all led with vulnerability, and I would talk to people, and I would go out on a limb, and I would say, like, this is the stuff I'm interested in. I'm a designer. I really love graphic design. I love making logos. I'm into branding. I care about business. And seeing and assessing how people reacted to that, having to take that risk first, but then reaping the rewards from it by seeing how people reacted, really changed the game for me. Because if people didn't react in a good way, and if people are like, oh, okay, like, you know, like, that's kind of weird, like, I'm into these important things, then that's all the information I need. And it's good for them. They should do what they're interested in and do what's important to them. But those were not the people that I would need to spend all my time with. And that's not to say you completely excommunicate that person, but it's okay if they stay in the bucket of friend acquaintance and do not become an advisor for you or somebody who you go to about the specific topics of work and career and purpose and those types of things. But then sometimes I would talk to people about that, and even if I was surprised and I didn't think that that's what they were into, some people would be like, really? Like, that stuff is so interesting and so cool, tell me more. Or maybe it's something that they're really interested in also, or they have some sort of interest that couples well with or parallels well with your interests. And those are the people that I really start to surround myself with when I was at school or in work settings, and it just completely opened up how I felt and the comfort that I felt about expressing my real interest and the confidence that I had in the things that I was called to do and felt good at. And it was a self-fulfilling prophecy and something that continued to snowball and spiral, because as I surround myself with people who empowered me to speak out about and embrace and loudly pursue my interests, the more that I did just that, and the more bold I was with what I was good at, the more people would accept what I was good at. If I walked into a room of architects and I was like, oh, you know, like, I'm kind of into graphic design and silly stuff like that, it's going to be thought of as just that, silly. But when I walk into rooms and I say, I run a branding agency, I have a company, and I am so passionate about graphic design and creating user experiences and business and branding and brand identity making, there's just like a certain level of respect that people put on your name when you approach a conversation like that and when you carry yourself like that. But I didn't get there on my own. I got there because I surrounded myself with people who created a safe space for me to behave and speak in that way until I felt comfortable. When I came into Harvard, I felt super mediocre and insecure, and like the things that I was interested in and valued in life were not important. But then I met this professor very early on in my degree who, she is a mother. She is a professor, obviously. She's teaching. And she also was running her own practice. And so I went to her office hours and I had such a vulnerable conversation with her, and I was like, hey, you're doing these 3 things that are all really important to me. How are you doing this so well? And I was blessed in that she responded so generously and was like, let me talk to you about this. And it was so helpful for me to be able to see somebody who valued family and motherhood and business and design and academia all at once, and to be able to interact with them and talk to them and look up to them. And I believe that this would even work if it's not necessarily someone you have such a close relationship with. Like, for example, I have a list of people in my head that I can think of that kind of mentor me from a distance, even though we don't talk that much, or maybe we've never even met at all. Maybe they're just a figure that like I've seen in media and that I follow closely and look up to. that are specifically designers of color or women designers or some person who belongs to one of the equity deserving groups that I belong to, or multiple of them that I can look up to, because there's so much deep-seated insecurity and imposter syndrome that comes with some of these embodied racist and misogynistic views that we're all so wonderfully familiar with. So me thinking that I'm not good enough just by virtue of being a woman or of being a black person, or double whammy of being a black woman. And so having excellent people who are thriving and succeeding at their craft and in their career, that are women, that are black women, that are black people, that are just people of color in general, or just, are representing some equity deserving group that I can look up to and image and use as like a reminder to myself that if they can do it, so can I, has been so helpful. Finding really good representation and making sure that all the people you're looking up to are diverse. And so it starts to break down this idea in your head that success looks a certain way physically, has been really important to me. And so maybe not only following people who succeeded so much at such a young age, or vice versa, and making sure you have a wide variety of people in your repertoire that you can pull out and think about when you're like feeling like you're falling behind or feeling inadequate in some way, and thinking, I can think of this person who didn't achieve this goal until they were in their 50s or 60s, or I can think of this person, like I said, on the opposite end, who did this awesome thing when they were in their early 20s or late teens, and so that means I am not too young to be able to operate at this excellent level. I am not too young to be in the space I'm in, or the opposite, it's not too late. I am not too old to be able to achieve all the dreams that I strive for. It's not too late for me. In this short video, it's probably not that short, but it feels short for me. I feel like I have not been talking for nearly as long as I usually do. I hope that you have felt encouraged, and I hope that me sharing what has helped me can also help you a little bit. I just want to affirm for you that you are exactly where you belong right now. It is not an accident that you are in your current circumstance, and I am a firm believer that God willed for you to be exactly where you are, and that is why you're there. So you have everything that you need within you to be able to succeed and thrive in the role that you're in. You can do this, and you are good enough. The people around you are not simply better, they are not simply smarter, and they may have different strengths and weaknesses than you do, but you have so many wonderful and beautiful strengths and skills and giftings that if you can tap into, leverage, and embrace, you can absolutely excel and be an inspiration to others in your current role. I hope you have a beautiful week and that you continue to grow in your confidence. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I'll talk to you very, very soon. Bye.